Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to another video. So for the past couple of months, we've done a few different Python and Quarto based tutorials. We started with a Quarto crash course, which covered kind of everything from the basics to some more advanced features, sprinkling a little bit of everything in between. And then we had a couple different tutorials on more advanced concepts like parameterized reporting, converting Jupyter notebooks into nice polished HTML reports, etc. In this video, we're going to tie everything that we've done in previous YouTube videos together with a nice looking website like the one you see on the screen. So this is actually not only built with Quarto and Python, but we can deploy it to a web domain of our choice. So I picked quartoisfun.com. And so basically with this website, we have all sorts of cool things. We got like a toggle menu here that has all of the different assets that we built in our previous videos. And if I click on any of these pages, like let's say Quarto Crash for example, it has a kind of about page, and then we can kind of get into different details of things that we built in that tutorial. So here's a dashboard. I guess some of the theming made this a little hard to read, but like we can basically show off all of this different type of analysis that we've done, show off another dashboard. Can show off the slideshow that was included in the last video, all built with Python and Quarto. So we'll start with the basics of how to build just a simple website with Quarto and Python. Then we'll slowly progress, see how we can add sidebars like this, see how we can add menus like this, add links over here, add tools like GitHub links, YouTube links, LinkedIn links, a search bar so I can look up like dashboards and find specific stuff related to dashboards in this series, and more. I think it's a pretty cool way to tie everything together, so I'm excited to share it with all of you. Link to the code is in the description. I've also linked the Quarto crash course video. That's probably a good place to get started, but you can also watch this video without seeing any of that as well. All right, enough of me talking though, let's get into the video. With anything Quarto related, I think a great place to start is by going to the Posit Quarto website. And here you have a ton of information. If we go to the guide and we go down to websites, we can look at creating a website here and find a lot of useful information. And if you ever forget, like let's say how to add a sidebar, navbar, etc. to your website, going to website navigation is the next spot you want to check out. A lot of useful stuff here. And this is always here as reference, linked in the description. And I think one cool thing to note is that this website was built using the same techniques that we will show. It's a little bit more sophisticated, but if you click on like edit this page and just go to Quarto Web, you can see all the same types of things that ultimately renders the Quarto website. And so if you ever need inspiration on how to do something, you can check out their quarto.yaml file and see a lot of different details on how it's laid out. We'll start simpler though and kind of work our way up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal, and I'm going to just basically open up a blank directory that I can write and build my website. So I'm going to do this with the terminal, but you can do this however you normally make your directories. So I'm going to go into my code directory. I have a folder called 2025, and I have a folder called Quarto. I'm going to go there and make a directory called simple website. I'm going to navigate into that, and I will open up VS Code here. And so now we have our simple website repository. And to get started, I will create just a couple QMD files. I'll call this first one index.qmd, and I'll just insert here, insert some random text here, another heading, I just accidentally put on caps lock, and some more text here. I feel like everyone always asks, I'm using GitHub Copilot to do these autocompletes that you see popping up on the screen. So we have our QMD, index.qmd file. As was seen in the crash course, if you set up the VS Code Quarto extension, you have the ability to render files like this and preview them in your VS Code editor. So we see our markdown code there. Okay, not too interesting yet, but let's add some more index.qmd files, or not index.qmd, but more QMD files. How about I do like Python example.qmd, and in this file, we will actually add some Python code. So here's a Python code example, and we add our 3 quotes, Python, and I will do something like, for I in range 5, print hello world. I'm going to print I as well. Not that exciting of code, but it will give you just a preview of what we can do. Maybe we add one more code file. We will just do this like, call this dashboard.qmd, and I'll actually make this a more proper Quarto file. So title, dashboard, author, Geeth. I was going to just replace my first and last initials, but we don't need to do that. And then type or format, dashboard. I'm going to do the same thing. Don't worry about exactly the details here. I'm just trying to get some simple example code on the screen. All right, this will be really, really exciting. All right, so if we run this dashboard example, okay. Sometimes you need to make sure you have the right Python version kind of running. So I'm going to specifically check my Quarto virtual environment and then run this. So I did Command-Shift-P on my MacBook to allow me to switch. Okay, here's a little dashboard. I think if I add another, I just want to show a dashboard off more properly. Okay, so here's a little dashboard, not very exciting. Here's my Python example file. If I run this, okay, we get a little HTML file there. Nothing too crazy, but this is now how we can start tying it together as a website. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a file called quarto.yaml. And so it's _quarto.yaml. And here we're going to want to first specify that the project is a website. And then we're going to start specifying some configuration. And I think I actually want to do project website like this. And as I mentioned before, like I don't always remember the exact YAML configuration, even though like I just did this. Like use the documentation to your advantage. Quarto website. We're going to see how it's set up. Okay, so project type website. Okay, and then I will do something like this just to start. So our file looks like this. And we will now, what you can do to preview everything is you can go ahead and do Quarto preview. And if you have this quarto.yaml file in here, it will allow things to run. We don't have a file called about.qmd, so I want to just use our dashboard.qmv file. And we could try this. Okay, so we got our nice, fun index.qmd that's rendering there. If I click on dashboard, we see that now our dashboard also loads in. So we have two different pages here, as well as a title. Title's not super descriptive, but I could call it something like Quarto website example as our title. And now if we look back at our preview, we see that this switches. So you can choose to have a title, or you could just choose to have the different menu options here. If we wanted to add another page, we can do that by adding just another dash, and we could add Python example.qmd. And now if we look at our website, we see here's a Python code example. I don't really love this drop-down title, so there's a few different ways we could change that. So one would be going to the Python example and specifically adding a file title using the Quarto YAML option. So if I did title, simple, or like HTML example, and now we go back to our website, we see that it's changed here. There's also ways that you can specify this in the drop-down menu or the navbar menu. So if I go here, what I could also do is I could do href is Python example, and our title will specifically be, how about Python simple. So before it was HTML example, and now by specifying the title here, I guess this should be text, it's just going to be Python simple. And this will take precedent over the title, but it will default to the title if it can't find anything. So we click on this, we go to our home index page, index.qmd. If I click home, we're also at that index.qmd. If I click dashboard, we see that it changes to our dashboard.html page. And if I click Python simple, it renders a Python example.html, all from the QMD files that we have available to us. By default, this search bar is here, so that's pretty cool to see, but you could also disable that if you wanted to. You could do like search false, and that will disable the search bar. I don't know why you would want to disable a search bar, but good to know. Other things you could do. So here we have the nav bar, but you might also want a sidebar. And so with our sidebar, we might want to have some contents, or maybe we start with, let's look at our options for a sidebar, because again, I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but if you go to website navigation on the Quarto docs and you look for sidebar, so here we're looking at, I think, the top navigation, so this nav bar, but we could also go to side navigation, here see sidebar, and we could play around stuff this way. So I'm going to kind of copy this. I'm going to go down, and you can have both a sidebar and a navbar. And we see this. Let's see. I'm going to just do the same type of files like dashboard, example. I can write whatever text I want here. Do href, that's going to be dashboard.qmd, and then like simple Python example, that's going to point to Python example.qmd. And we see that everything's kind of re-rendering in the background. If we go back to our website, we now see that we have two different things that we can click on. Go home. So here's our little sidebar. For some reason, the simple Python example isn't rendering. I'm not quite sure. Oh, it's because I did section here. This should be text. Now we can click on this. Cool. And we can get even more sophisticated with this. So let's say we wanted it to be a drop down of multiple things. Well, we could keep adding Quarto files into this. So if I added now, instead of just straight text, we added a section. I could actually not include, let's say like we don't want to have this be clickable. I could just have some contents under the basic section. And there's you could list individual QMD files like this, but you could also do something like just list all files, all QMD files, get them all and put them under the basics. So if we look at this, go to HTML example, it's going to grab any QMD file it can find other than the index.qmd, and it's going to put them here. So you could have links, multiple of the same links. So like this link and this link go to the same spot, but it's all under this dropdown, and it's expanded out. And you can just keep nesting these dropdowns. We'll see some more sophisticated examples of this soon. Other things that we could do is we could start adding, GitHub links, YouTube links, etc. But I think this is good for the basics. Let's start making this more interesting by actually using the previous QMD files we did in the different tutorials that have been in this series. So to find the code, you can go to, this is going to be linked in the description as well, github.com/KeithGalley/Quarto portfolio. And there's a ton of code here. I recommend, copying this and cloning it locally. To start out, there'll be a branch called like starter code. So if you don't want to see all the finished Quarto.yaml and kind of want to play around with things yourself, look for the branch starter code. I'll also link that in the description for convenience. Let's see what we can do with this starter code. Okay, once you're on the starter branch, or you can find it in the description, we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code. Pull in my Visual Studio Code real quick. And we see we have a bunch here. So we have our Quarto.yaml starter file. We have a starter index.qmd. So I've kind of just linked it here with some descriptions of the different projects we've done in this Quarto series. But if we were to render this right now, so if I did and there's a requirements.txt, so you can make sure that you have all the necessary libraries to run this by doing a pip3-install requirements.txt. I recommend maybe starting a virtual environment. So I'm going to activate my Quarto environment. And then if I run this requirements.txt, I can make sure that I have everything. And now if I run a Quarto preview, it's going to start rendering these different QMD files. And this is all our YAML file has right now. So the website's probably not going to be that interesting to start. Yeah, so very, very basic. These links, I guess they work. But I don't know, it could be a lot better. So how can we start adding more interesting things to this? Well, I think first off, we could change up the theme. So if we wanted a theme to look more interesting, we could go ahead and go in here and we could do format, theme, and then we could specify something like Cosmo. I'm going to double check how the theme is set. I think it was in that starter code. Theme, okay, format, HTML, and then theme like this. Copy this. If you had special CSS styles, you could add them here. I don't right now, so I'm going to just remove this. And I guess I'll leave the table of contents. I don't know what that will look like in this base version of the website. So we have, I guess, our table of contents over here. If it's helpful, you can include it. We only have a single page, so I don't really need the table of contents right now. I'm going to just get rid of this. But we do see that with the theme Cosmo, I think things look a bit different, right? This header bar is definitely different. What other themes could we try out? Well, if I look up Quarto themes, we have some of these out of the box. One that I liked was Solar, but let's try a couple. I like the name Sketchy. Sketchy, Slate, and Solar. How about I try all of those? Sketchy. And this might actually look more interesting once we actually add some more stuff. So maybe I revisit the themes in a second. And I think when I change the theme, I think I need to re-render it. Or maybe, oh, maybe it's right there. Oh, wow, that's sketchy. Jeez. So here's a, if you wanted some character, a little personality, you could use the sketchy version. We could also try the Slate. See what that does. Oh, that looks really actually pretty cool. I like the look of that a lot. And I'm going to do another called Solar. I think that looks quite nice as well. So you can play around with the different HTML themes here. A lot of cool options. I'll leave it at Solar for now. But as we start playing around with this, let's add some other pages. So I'm going to add a sidebar. And I want to add, title will be Python Quarto series, contents. And we could just start listing off different directories here. So I could just literally do, to start, contents is everything. Let's see what that does with our website. Refresh this. I feel like I messed something up again. Website navigation. I'm going to copy in the sidebar one more time. Because our sidebar is not showing up. Maybe actually if the sidebar is not showing up yet. I'm going to run it like this first. I don't know if title actually, okay, these QMD files aren't found. Makes sense. So we're going to have a section just called everything. And the contents of the section everything will literally be just star. And there's no introduction QMD either, so I'll just make this index.qmd or something like that. And see, now we have our page. And what's really cool is that when we do the star, that asterisk, like this, it's just basically looking for all renderable files. So what is a renderable file? Well, if I look up some information here, we see that Quarto input files .qmd, .ipython notebook, .md, and .rmd will automatically be rendered. So when I specify something like the asterisk here, it's going to look for any types of those files, even if they're nested within like a different directory. So like Quarto crash course, etc. And it's going to automatically just kind of embed them in the sidebar here. So we have everything, and then we could go into like Quarto crash course, for example, and then we could get all the different files there. So here's like the homepage file, and we get all the information there. One thing that's cool too is that let's say I didn't want to render this file. A kind of strategic thing that I did was I made this about file a markdown file. No different, just that I knew I wasn't going to have any actual code in the about files. So I didn't need the perks of Quarto markdown specifically. So what I could also do with my publish is I could specify I wanted all files that end in QMD. And you could make this even more sophisticated. You could do like, maybe you have a special naming convention that starts with report dash anything.qmd. So there's a lot of different ways you can play around with this. But now if I do star.qmd and we look at our website, if I go to Quarto Crash Course, we now don't see that page that we initially did. But I could get to it if I linked this Quarto Crash Course tab with a specific href that gets to this page. So the way that we can do that is, instead of just letting it render everything on its own, you could be a little bit more specific and do stuff like, the section here is Quarto Crash Course. The contents will be everything in the Quarto Crash Course directory, and then QMD files there. And the section will also point you to the specifically Quarto Crash Course /about.md file. So now if I run this, and go back to my home page and then click Quarto Crash Course, we see it gets us to that page, but we still have the drop-down options. One thing we see too is that the drop-downs are all showing by default, but maybe you wouldn't want that. One parameter we have access to in the sidebar is, I think it's called collapse level. I could make this 1, and then nothing really will show. So nothing's showing here. So it's the collapse level is how much is expanded by default. So it's, I think, default set to 2. So this is all showing. Another thing that we see in here is that we have 2 movie data analysis. So if we wanted to switch things up, we could specifically go into Quarto Crash Course. We could go into, let's say, HTML report, and I could do movie data analysis HTML, and I could also do movie data analysis PDF, switch up the titles. And then if I look back at the website and refresh this, the PDF might be weird because I think it's rendered a little bit differently. So if I do the Quarto preview again, and we look in this, we now see PDF and HTML, the different pages. And you can just kind of, name your files as you need to, as you see fit. But it's cool that the QMDs automatically will render during this, website publishing process. All right, let's keep going. Other things you might want to do is maybe add a tool bar. So I could add in my Navbar, I could add tools, and tools are just basically my GitHub links, let's say. So I would want this to navigate to github.com/KeithGalley/Quarto portfolio. And I would maybe also want to add a icon. So these icons are from the default Bootstrap icons. And so they have an icon for GitHub and YouTube, but you need to make sure that they're lowercase. Otherwise, it will not work. We're going to just do @posit PBC. And so if we render this, we see we get the GitHub link. I can click on this, get to the GitHub. We also have a YouTube link. Opens up the YouTube. That all looks good. And we could keep adding things. So I could keep adding sections to this. I could add a section for the second video in the series, which was the parameterized reports. And is that navigating to the right? It's called parameterized reporting here. And now if we look at the new website, we have a new dropdown, and it's going to show an example of a parameterized report. And these are getting linked to, so basically within, there's this about.md file. And with that, when this gets rendered by Quarto, it becomes, as we look in this, or I guess you might not see it, but if you look in the site information, if you looked in like parameterized reporting, it becomes about.html. And so in our index file, we can reference like parameterized reporting about.html and basically get it so that if we click this, it will get us to the page that has all of this information on it. That's cool. Let's keep seeing what else we can do. Another thing we had in the website that I previewed. So if I go back to my index, or not index, if I go back to the Quarto.yaml, in the website that we previewed in the Navbar, there was a section called YouTube tutorials. And this had a menu of YouTube links. So I could do like text, video 1, and that would have the YouTube link corresponding to video 1, so HTTPS. And if I look at my index, I actually did, or no, not the index. If I looked at Quarto Crash Course about.md, this is the link to that video. So I could copy this, paste it in the href. Href is, I forget what it stands for, but it's basically whenever you have a link, that's the source of where the link is going. Go to our website. We see now we have YouTube tutorials, video 1. I click on it. It navigates me to the website. One thing you might want it to do is not actually open this in the same window. So one trick that I found helpful is you can also add this. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Autocomplete sometimes. You can add this target parameter, and if you specify the special variable _blank, and then try clicking YouTube video 1, you see that we have this about page right here. If I click video 1 now, it opens it up in a different link. That is a cute cat, BTW. All right, other things we want to do. Well, I want some more theming. I want some more branding. So maybe I add like a favicon and a title here. So website, title, sure, Keith Galley's Quarto portfolio. I think, that will, I guess you could add, if you have any titles in any of these pages, I think we'll change up this header. Quarto in Python video series. That's coming from specifically the index.qmd. Oh, it's, right here. So that's kind of specifying that. If I wanted to specifically have my own favicon, I go to Quarto.yaml, and I go to favicon. In the previous slideshow video, I showed this little sample logo that I created, saved in logos, kg logo.svg. That will now pop up here. So I have my logo. I could also add a logo to the Navbar. I think if I do Navbar logo, and I did like logos slash, I added a Quarto image here too, so quarto.png. If we look at what this does, we see now we get like the Quarto logo over here. You could replace this with whatever logo that you wanted if you think that this is cool and makes sense. Let's try to think of other things. I like adding a footer to the website, and all of this is documented in the Quarto docs. But if I wanted to add a page footer, I could add page footer, copyright 2023 Keith Galley. It's 2025 Keith Galley. And I could also actually specify like multiple options here. So I could do the left side of the footer is the copyright, and the right side is yo, 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 yo. Did I break it? Did I specify something wrong? Where's the page? Oh, here's the page footer. See yo, 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 yo on the right side. Left side is copyright 2025 Keith Galley. That looks good. Could also make this, instead of docked, there's I think fixed is the other option. Or floating. And that would just kind of center everything. I kind of liked the fixed look, so I'm going to keep it docked. And notice if we turn off the search in the Navbar, or in the Navbar, and we have it active in the sidebar, we now get it over here instead of over here. I kind of like it on the top right, so I'm going to keep it the way we had it. I'm going to get rid of the search over here. One cool thing, I guess one kind of useful thing, is you can also specify just 3 dashes here as a item, and that will create a nice little line break in your sidebar. I'm going to get rid of my logo here. I don't think I need that. Got our everything. We could also easily basically copy our icons here, and you can start nesting things here. So I can nest our icons down here, and we get those same links down here. Let's think. Okay, I think the last real thing that's different before we actually show how we publish this is, instead of adding a format and doing theming like this, we can also specify a branding file. So if I do brand, and then I do brand.yaml, or wherever you have your brand.yaml file. So maybe I create a folder, or maybe I just create the file. Sometimes the nesting of files makes a difference here, but I'll just call this brand.yaml. And then I'm going to copy this in from the GitHub website. So we have our brand.yaml. If I copy it, this is all kind of talked about in the slideshow video, so you can learn more about the brand YAML feature there. Note this is only available in newer versions of Quarto, so you need to have Quarto 1.6 or above for this to work. But now if we look at our website, we're going to get this nice, sweet, branded version of the website, which I think looks pretty dang sweet. I don't know if I love the border here of the side. Maybe that was already there. I could specify on my sidebar border is false. to remove that if I want. So yeah, depending on what you think is better. I think this looks really sweet though. The brand.yaml is all of this. It's using the same KG logo. Yeah, it looks quite cool in my opinion. And there's even more customization you can do with your brand.yaml file. Lots of cool stuff. And then the last step really is, how do we deploy this? To deploy, there's two different options. The first is using Posit Connect Cloud. So if I go ahead and add these changes, so add brand.yaml, git add brand.yaml, git commit -m, final code, or let me just make this a little bigger so you can see, or just up on the screen, git commit -m, final code from video, push origin starter. So again, just to clarify, this is all the assets from these different projects that you're seeing here. And I guess just to make it fully complete, I should just add the last few sections. So we have also a dashboard section, an analytics report section, and a slideshow section. So to add this, I'll do section Jupyter to analytics report. And that's in, we just called it analytics reports. And this is analytics reports. We also have a section called, this is easier name, section called dashboards. That looks all good. And we have a section not called data visualization. We have a section called slideshows. And we can complete that. And we see we have all of these now over there too. You could very easily too make this like your own data portfolio by like switching this icon out with maybe an image of your face or something like that. But looks very cool. We see the different files here. So we see like the Quarto slideshow that we walked through. In that slideshows video, check out all of these individual videos by clicking through this website, quartoisfun.com, to learn more about how to do these different types of things, like slideshows like this. It's really powerful stuff.
On the slideshow point, one cool trick I think is useful when you're displaying slideshows in a website is you can copy the following code snippet into your about.markdown file, whatever markdown file you want to. And basically what this will do is, I'm going to real quick render it without it first. We have this site, and I could click, Quarto presentations to see the slideshow, but it takes me to a different page. One thing that's cool that you can do is we could add this code snippet, and example.html is ultimately the HTML file that's rendered from example.qmd, which is our slideshow. And now with this code snippet, if we re-render this, we have a nice iframe embedding of the slideshow, so you can see the slideshow, navigate through the slideshow right there within your screen, which I just feel like is a nice little trick to know about.
Dashboards. And sometimes I guess the themes don't look as good with maybe previous themes that you use, if you use white, light, or dark. So there's some additional customization you sometimes will have to do. But yeah, let's just commit this code too. Okay, so if I wanted to deploy this code, I would go Quarto. I would go to Posit Connect Cloud. I have a link to Posit Connect Cloud in the description. And I would do publish. I would specify Quarto. My repo is Quarto Portfolio. The branch here is actually called Starter. Did I push that code? I did push origin starter. That looks good. And primary file doesn't matter here because I don't think it should matter here, but I would recommend putting index.qmd because I think it reads ultimately your quarto.yaml file, so you need to have that connected. You'll also need to make sure you have a requirements.txt in this that has all the libraries that you need. But if you have those things, you click publish. Just going to install everything, render everything. Might take a minute to render. And we see we got our website all rendered here. And what's cool is you could go like full screen mode here. And you could go ahead very easily and share this link. So if I like opened up an incognito window and shared this link, it renders it all the same. I can go to any of these pages very easily.
And if you really wanted to make this a data portfolio, I do want to mention that any analysis you do with your QMD files and any outputs that are HTML based can be easily embedded in this website. So here we have the report from the Jupyter Notebook to Analytics Report video. And you're seeing a lot of like matplotlib and Seaborn charts here, but like these also could be interactive Plotly charts that you could zoom in on, play around with. Like this table right here is interactive. So you can also embed the same interactive elements that you can with any Quarto document. I wanted to make that just clear quickly.
My tutorials are all there. These links are here. You can share that link. You could also just go ahead and copy this to get the same link. Trying to think of other things. This works out of the box with public GitHub repos, but if you want to deploy from private repos, you can use a pro plan, the basic plan or the enhanced plans for extra types of support. There's new features rolling out in Posit Connect Cloud very frequently, so I recommend checking this out every so often to see what you have access to. This is definitely the easiest way, but if you wanted to, let's say right now, deploy to your own custom domain, first you would want to acquire a domain. I typically do that with namecheap.com, but you can use any provider. You could also use netlify.com. But one thing that's really cool is there's a Quarto publish Netlify option. And with that, you can specify, sign into your account. And basically, so I need to make sure my libraries are all there again. So Quarto, publish, and Netlify. Right now, this is all living on quartosfun.com, but if I wanted to add a new destination, I could specify my account. It will all render the same kind of way. And ultimately, you'll end up on netlify.com, and you can connect your own domains. So if I go to domains, I can add or register a domain. So I could type in something like my data portfolio.xyz. Maybe this domain is available. You can literally just buy it right here from Netlify, and then it'll allow you to connect what you're publishing to this code over here. Or as I said, I'll show probably a screen recording of it, but I purchased my domains on Namecheap.com, and I just basically had to copy some additional settings to my Namecheap account, and then it was able to connect from that external domain. I just don't like having my domains floating in all different spots. But here we have a new site, and I could very much configure it to connect to a different either just the netlify.app, but if you wanted to add your custom domain, I could do something here, as I said, quartoisfun.com, then added the name servers, and then basically it will be connected, and you go to quartoisfun.com. Everything that was living locally is here online. You can share it with people. A lot of fun. You can build a cool data portfolio with this using your QMD files. It's just I found it pretty awesome. So hopefully you all do as well. I think this is the tutorial though. All right. Well, we've deployed our website. Hopefully you found this video useful. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you did enjoy it, make sure to throw it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to not miss any videos like this in the future. I'd be very curious to see what you all build. So if you build any cool websites, please share them with me. Tag me on LinkedIn, tag me on Instagram. I would love to see them. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them down in the comments. But I think that is all we're going to do with it today. This was a lot of fun. Build a cool looking website. Till next time, everyone. Peace out.